and welcome back to the Margaret Fontana Media Podcast, where we talk all things media, PR, content strategy, and personal branding. Where basically I'm always trying to help you grow your influence and visibility in today's world and all of the other new places that we're seeing social media and PR kind of combine and become this really powerful element in building your business. So I'm your host, Margaret Fontana. And today we're going to dive into the topic that truly shapes every successful career and business. And you wouldn't really normally think of this as something that is a part of building your brand, except from those tactical things, but it's something called networking. And I can't emphasize enough how important this is. So I know when you hear the word networking, you might think of like these awkward mixers, or like you go to parties and like you're trying to like network and you're handing out business cards and business cards sometimes that you never even look at again, or you have to like dig back into your like pouch, your bag, your pockets and say like, oh, I know I met someone who did whatever. Unless you're doing like the scan through on the phone, or like you're doing a LinkedIn bar-in code just to kind of like, phone to phone, and you kind of like scan people's numbers that way. Um, but real networking is so much more than that. It's about connection, it's about collaboration, and mostly, and the most important thing is credibility. It's hand down one of the most important and most powerful ways you can build and develop your brand. And so I think the reason we wanted to talk about this today was I did get an email from someone else who was just like talking about like, hey, how do I connect with someone who's focused in on a specific business to help them boost their product? And, sometimes it's not always like, oh, send an email pitch or something like that. It's actually like connecting with people, networking. So here's why networking matters. And I'm going to start with why networking is such a game changer. So in today's digital and social world, people don't just buy products, they buy the people. They connect with stories, with personalities, and relationships. I think people are more prone to doing business with you if they know you, if they are interacting with you, if you're creating like a connection, basically. That's really the true foundation of any successful brand, or any successful person trying to sell some type of either product or service. And a product could be an event, a participation in an event. It could be a book. It could be, soliciting for, let's say, fundraising. So there's a lot of pieces involved in that, and I think we'll just do like a high level overview today. But if there's like more specific, when we talk about fundraising and nonprofit, it's a whole other animal. When we talk about, selling services, it's definitely a different animal. And then when you talk about people trying to, let's say, promote a film, promote attendance, promote a book, um, promote a digital product, anything like that. So networking also gives you brand visibility. So every conversation, every event, every introduction is a moment for someone new to connect with your name and your expertise. So the best part of that is the more people who understand what you do and how you add value, the more likely they are to refer you, collaborate with you, or bring you new opportunities. So this is where the digital presence comes into play, because if someone doesn't understand what your business does or what you stand for in your business, so if you have like multiple businesses and someone's like, oh, but I thought you do this, I didn't know you do that. So it kind of throws people off. So sometimes when you're a multi-passionate type entrepreneur person and you have multiple businesses, you have to be really careful about how and who you're talking to and when you're talking to them. I mean, it's good for people to know the different businesses that you have or what you're doing, but you have to be very clear in what you provide. What is your value? So throwing that out there, but that's a whole other episode about value and clarity around branding. So I guess when we're talking about, I mentioned entrepreneurs. So if you're a what we call nowadays a solopreneur, a creative professional, or you're running or growing a business, your network is your brand amplifier. And so when we talk about that, we're talking about the strategy around how you're actually going to network. So let's move into that. So we're going to call this how to network strategically. And so we're going to talk about doing it the right way, because I think a lot of people just think like, networking is, um, posting randomly, connecting with people on LinkedIn and being like a spammer. No, what you have to actually do and be is what we call intentional. And so know what you're trying to build. And again, this is where your clarity comes in on who you are, what your business is, what is the value you're bringing into or to a relationship. And so it's like you can own multiple businesses, but someone should know, whoever you're working with or whoever you're trying to sell to should know what it is that you're about. And that's how you actually create a successful relationship. So it's really about being intentional. The second thing is leading with value. So I would say the best networkers are not constantly selling. Let me clarify. The best networkers aren't selling. So if you're selling hard, it's actually a turnoff. So you're going to have to evaluate yourself and really evaluate like your pitch, basically. So like if you're meeting with people, if you're at networking events and stuff like that, I mean, if you're selling and you're snaky, you're done. Nobody wants to do business with you or wants to do business with that type of person. Authenticity is also part of leading with value. So if you have integrity, you're authentic, it's not hard for you to, be like an honest business person. So if you're masking and you're out there like, oh, hey, I sell this thing, blah, 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 and then you have other businesses, nobody wants to do business with you. So I would self-evaluate. You have to audit your own reputation when you're embarking on these types of things. And I love that term. And I put it in one of my notes, but it's like a reputation audit. Who are you? Audit who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, you can't lead with value. You can't come in with integrity. And again, some of these things you can learn about, but a lot of times these are things that come from the heart too. So it's like it's hard. It's hard if you don't have these qualities as a person, and you're going to have to work on that. You might have to develop some of these things. Okay, so the first thing I talked about was being intentional. The second is leading with value. The third thing I'm going to mention now is, and I have notes as I'm talking to you, just because these are things that I write down as things come up. And so the third element here is using digital presence. So I mentioned social media. So you have LinkedIn, you have Instagram. I have my podcast. I use my podcast for different reasons. I like to talk about business. I like to talk about my expertise, but I also like to shine a light on networking with lifestyle topics. I like to talk to really great people. I like to talk to artists. So for me, that's my way of also networking, because it gives me a chance to stay connected and for folks to understand that that's my brand too. My brand is there's a very large component of lifestyle in my brand. Aside from the fact that I love media and PR, and I do that on a daily basis. But when we talk about digital presence and social media, these are the modern marketing tools and the modern networking tools. So make sure that when you're online, that you're commenting very thoughtfully, intentionally on posts. DM people after you meet them at events and things, like to connect with them. Don't become a spammer. There's nothing worse than someone being like too aggressive on, emails or post conference type events. Like be like, hey, it was great to meet you. Let me know when we can collaborate in the future. It's got to be like tight but loose. And there's a little bit of a master class to that, and that's part of doing PR. And again, inside of these notes and inside of these connections, you also want to be genuine. So take off that fake snaky sales hat. It's just like you're wasting your time. But when you're doing all of this work, this is like what we call micro intentional connection. These are all my little tidbits of how I package this up. But it's like these micro interactions definitely compound over time, right? Because it's like you can do small things, which then add up to the bigger thing. So if I'm building a relationship, I'm reaching out to you. maybe we see each other at an event. I do a post kind of connect. And then, there's a moment where this person feels great about our relationship. This person then says, oh, I'd love to interact with Margaret because she's pretty consistent. She did A, B, and C. So maybe we can collaborate on this, whatever it is, if I'm pitching something or if there's something else happening that we're aligned on. So then finally, there's this other element of what we call the follow-up. And again, the follow-up is you just being eloquent and being gentle. I use the word gentle because, like I said, there's a science to the follow-up, and it's like you want to go hard, but you got to be a little loose on it. You can't be that like forceful. You're going to have to be a little gentle. So don't let the great conversations fade away that you have with people. A simple, it was great meeting you. I'll check in with you soon. Let's connect on social media. Let's stay connected. See you after the holidays, or let's reconnect after this date or that date. That's it. If you're trying to accomplish something with someone, if they're like like a business kind of like goal or something that you need from them, you never want to exert that you need something from someone, because that's also very disingenuine, or I guess that's the word. But it's like, you want to be respectful. Like, you're doing business, they're doing business. And again, you want to completely like think about how you're building your own personal brand as someone who's like interacting with someone to kind of get them to trust you over time. So authenticity wins the game here at all times. So it's like being intentional, bringing that value, and then making sure you're following up with in a good way. Again, not in a creepy way. So there's definitely a science to that. Um, and again, as we're talking about that, we're talking about the impact of the networking. So I'm going to just briefly talk about, when you're building your brand starts to work for you. So when you're meeting that person, or people start to know what you do, they start to know what your business is. Um, People want to do business with you. And so this is where your brand then kind of like supersedes. So if like I walk in a room, and that happens now, and it sounds a little cocky, but like I walk in a room, people know me, they know what I do, they know what I stand for, they know that I have integrity, they know I bring value, they know that I'm great at the follow-up, and that works for me. So, you kind of have to exercise your own areas. And this doesn't happen overnight. I come from like over 25 years of, probably longer, without revealing too much of my age bracket, but this comes over time, and so if you're looking to kind of like advance in these areas and like master this area in your life of networking. And listen, sometimes it's not about you selling anything. Sometimes you have to sell yourself, because maybe you're in the market for a new gig. Maybe you're creative and like you're looking for a new job, or you're trying to like get new business. So you're always marketing yourself. So you kind of always have to lead with your best foot forward. I tell everybody, always lead with your best foot forward. And that whole like idea of I don't know, it's like chasing. It's like you never want to chase. You definitely want to, be strategic with your positioning, your packaging, but if people start to know you and they start to understand what you're about, people then come to you. So this was where you might start getting invited to interviews, collaboration. You might have someone come to you for a partnership. Um, you know, your credibility is important. Burning bridges, don't burn bridges. It comes back full circle. So you always want to lead with your best foot forward and bring value to any table you get to. This is a whole other episode. I could give you more on this. But I'm just giving you the high level overview. So it's about, people will then start to come to you for your expertise, for the credibility you bring, and obviously that the authenticity. So, and when we talk about depth of your brand, the networking work that you're doing, or what I'm suggesting and recommending, will start to bring a whole new depth to the brand, to you, if you are the brand, or if you have a product, or if you're promoting something. You're not just a logo anymore. If you're posting your logo or you're posting something about your business, you're a person with relationships, good relationships. So if you do business and then you don't talk to people afterwards, or you cut people off, guess what? People know that. People know what you're about, and they know that you're not authentic, and they know that you're phony, and you're not going to succeed. So unfortunately, you can be in denial about that part of business conduct, but everybody knows. And then if you find yourself saying, "Oh gosh, why am I not getting this? And why is that dwindling? Or why didn't I get?" Because people don't want to do business with you. People move away from people who are not authentic. That's what makes your brand memorable, and that's how you are respected. Respect is actually a whole separate episode, and we can talk about that another time, obviously. But respect is what drives people to come to you. And if you don't respect, and if you conduct yourself in a way that is not authentic, and if you conduct yourself in a way that is false, negative, all of those words. Look up those synonyms. Synonyms. Okay, so that's what makes your brand memorable and respected. So remember, your brand has an ecosystem. It's where your visibility, where are you showing up, your credibility, how I'm showing up, and really it's about that value. So it's like the opportunity of, where are those moments that I'm bringing all of these pieces in. This is a very, I wasn't really going to go down too many roads on this podcast episode, because we're really talking about networking, and I wanted to give some high level overview. But really, this is like an intense topic type episode, because there's a lot of things in here that matter, and it really has to do with the human side of you, the authentic, and the authenticity of who you are. I'm having tongue ties today. So if you found this helpful, please make sure that you subscribe, share this episode with someone who's going to grow their brand, or leave a review. It really helps me grow. And, if you want to reach out to more entrepreneurs and creatives like you, please share my podcast episode. If you want to work with me or talk to me, send me an email at margaret@margaretfontana.com. So thanks for listening. And remember, your network isn't just who you know, it's who knows you. There's that saying, it's like, oh, it's not what you know, it's who you know. No, no. It's who knows you. And how do they know you? By what characteristics do they know you? I'll leave you with that. So I would say thanks again, and let us know, or let me know through the comments or through any of the platforms if there's any other topics or thoughts you have on this episode. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.